My name is Brendan Brush Shiels. This is the start of a 6-week open forum seminar that we're going to have, and it's called Brush Shiels Quest for Knowledge and Spiritual Enlightenment. Now here's how it works. I'm going to be putting forward little things from the Bible and everywhere else that I personally don't understand. And I'm hoping that somebody out there will get in touch with us and explain it to me. And every so often I'll throw in what I would call little gems of wisdom myself. And you might pick up on that. But between us we could get some kind of conversation going that could be fairly interesting. But the last thing I want to be is serious. That's why I'm going to introduce this guy here before we go any further. His name is Brian Corscadden. Now you obviously haven't got a clue who he is. But if you are watching Shane MacGowan's funeral on the television, he was the one that came on after Jerry Adams and before Nick Cave. I know what you're saying to yourself, you still don't know who he is. But he also carried Shane's coffin in, then swapped places with Johnny Depp. And you're saying you still don't know who he is. But he is the most important thing about Brian is not the fact that he was like one of Shane's prime carers for the last 12, 14 months of his life. The most important thing about him in relation to this program is he is a natural devotee of St. Anthony of Padua.
That's true.
Tell me about him.
So I did a St. Anthony's Trazana for Shane Brush, as you know, for 13 weeks.
Yeah.
And they actually ended up carrying Shane with a man called Anthony at the end of the prayer.
Okay.
So in that sort of way, you're kind of communicated to through the Spirit.
All right.
I'm actually in the process of doing a St. Anthony's Trazana now with the piper from Shane's funeral.
Okay.
Shane a song up and telling him about him as well. So he might show up at some stage as well.
Well, what we'll do is we'll get together the three of Shane, yourself and myself. The two of you can explain to me how you get from A to B with St. Anthony.
Sure.
And I'm very interested in that.
Sure.
So what we're talking about on the show, that's exactly what we'll be doing. Meeting people who are very interested and have a devotion to different saints. Now what we're going to be talking about is music. We're going to be talking about philosophy. We're going to be talking about theology. And we're going to be talking about sport. They all come together. Now, what we're not going to do is talk about philosophy like this. Here's what happens when you overthink it. I think, therefore I am. I am, therefore I think I am. I am, I think I am. Am I? I think I am. None of that stuff. What we want is every ordinary day philosophy like, I wouldn't pick that up if I was you. You know, that kind of stuff. Now the other thing we'll be doing is theology. So we're going to be talking about many different things. And my favourite people in the Catholic Church, and one of them being St. John of the Cross. I was always about 40 years ago I would have read the Ascent of Mount Carmel, which was the story of his life. I'm always interested in a monk that gets manhandled by other Carmelite monks, put in a dark room for 9 months and is fed only bread and water. So why they locked him up, the story goes that St. Teresa of Lisieux wanted him to go down and sort out all these monks who seem to be having too good a time and get back to the old days, no drinking, no fluting around that. So he went down and he got the Carmelites very, very, very annoyed. So I'll be talking about St. John of the Cross, particularly the dark night of the soul. Now, he came up with the phrase, the dark night of the soul. I took it somewhere else. I go, down into the dark night of the soul, along the shadow of the valley of death. Glimpse the promised land and understand that the soul sees its own sunset. Back through the tunnel of love, out onto the road to redemption above, up to the high hinterland of hope, to hail the hospitality of the holy. And that's what we're going to be talking about, the hospitality of the holy. And we will be asking questions about why we think the Catholic and Christian churches have been depleted so badly in the last, say 10 years. Now we know what happened in the Catholic Church, but when one of my main interests are the American TV evangelicals. I think they're the most corrupt people in the world. They preach what they call the prosperity gospel. It works like this. The parishioner has to send them $1,000. And because of that's called a tithe, T-I-T-H-E. And if you send him $1,000 or her $1,000, God will send you $10,000. This is what they tell these vulnerable people who unfortunately can't afford it. And you wonder why these so-called TV evangelicals who proclaim to worship this particular gospel called the prosperity gospel don't go straight to God and say, ask for the 10 grand from there. They're most corrupt people you could meet. And Trump's main advisor, her name is Paula White. She's completely corrupt. She actually headed off for another corrupt guy called Benny Hinn. And the worst people you can see are the TV evangelicals. They're on Sky 580, Kenneth Copeland, Jesse Duplantis, Jimmy Swaggart of all people, dreadful people, Creflo Dollar, Rod Parsley, Steve Fortnick. And there's the greatest scam agent in the lot. His name is Mike Murdoch. And he offers Boaz blessings. Now he's talking about that God sends him Rolex watches, BMWs. And if you send him 10 grand, you'll get a Boaz blessing. That means anything he gets, you'll get. Now he makes $18 million a year with that particular thing. So Paula White, she's Trump's spiritual advisor. What does that mean? Trump, in my opinion, is an antichrist. Elon Musk, he's an antichrist. He's a white South African supremacist, anti-everything, but he is an antichrist. If he was in the American wrestling, the WWE, they'd call him Evil Elon Musk, which is the right name for him, to tell you the truth. But as far as I'm concerned, Trump is an antichrist, Elon Musk is an antichrist. And what they have in common is they're both Nazis. Netanyahu, he's a Nazi, he's an antichrist. Putin, he's an antichrist. They're all antichrists. And they're out there. Like Trump, he doesn't read the Bible. He reads Mein Kampf. That's his, like the Hitler. That's his main thing. Like, that's all he's interested in. He spends all his time lying. And you get all these evangelicals and Christians in America voting for him. 77 million people voted for Trump. And now what's happened? Half of them have buyer's remorse already. They know it's a complete shambles. And we're sitting around every day. Like, if you go back to the centuries, the monks have been praying. They didn't even go out, drop of water, a bit of bread, pray day and night. It's nothing but prayers for centuries and centuries. You look out and ask me what has changed from these guys praying all these years and years. Not just nuns and, now, it's lovely, but most of their time is spent trying to create a one-on-one with a divine presence. But I think you're much better off doing something, like go out and do something, walk with the homeless, do something for yourself, rather than just be sitting around all day praying. It doesn't always work. If you take the Eastern Orthodox, their main prayer used to be, it's called the Jesus prayer. Jesus, have mercy on me, a sinner. Now, you're back to this thing again. Me. Have mercy on me. It should have been have mercy on the rest of the world. Instead of just talking about yourself and your divine presence, and you're looking for the one-on-one with the divine presence, you'd be better off out doing something. And when you come home, do a bit of praying then. Instead of sitting around all day praying, you're better off going walking with the homeless. Do something that really makes a difference. That's what we'd like to see. So as far as Trump is concerned, we here in Ireland, we're not pro-Hamas. We are anti-Netanyahu. It's a totally different thing. We don't agree with anything that Hamas has done. And I have also come to the conclusion, in Israel, they have the most elite spy network in the world. They're called Mossad. And you can't tell me that Mossad didn't know that Hamas was going to do what they were going to do. But what Netanyahu wanted was, he's trying to stay out of jail. So he'll kill as many Palestinians as he can just to stay out of jail. So you can't tell me that the most elite spying agency in the world, Mossad, didn't know that these boys were coming over in little bits of helicopters and fucking parachuting. They'd known that for weeks, but they wanted this to happen so they could completely, it's almost another Holocaust, but it is genocide. They want to wipe out the majority of the Palestinian people so that other people can build the Riviera of the Middle East. This is what we've been told. And if you think that Trump has anything going from exactly the fact that he's a born lawyer, in my opinion, he should be impeached for treason, for colluding with Putin. Never in the history of America has any president ever colluded with somebody like Putin. Putin is an antichrist, and the reason that Trump colludes with him, he is also an antichrist. Elon Musk, another antichrist. Netanyahu, another antichrist. Trump is president and spent most of his time trying to stay out of jail. One of the funniest things that a lot is, he has people going in on his behalf, DOGE, with Elon Musk, checking out the federal agencies for fraud. And his chief financial advisor done 5 years on behalf of Trump's fraud. And so what Trump does is he tries to distract from the fact that he was supposed to bring down the price of groceries and the price of living and this, that, and he's no more interested. He doesn't know what the price of living is. He never had to worry about the price of living. He knows nothing about working people or the working class. But you say to yourself, how the people in America, how do they fall for that crap that he came up with about that? I'll bring the price of groceries down. The price of groceries are going up. The price of juice is going up. Everything's going to keep going up. But he'll try and start a war just to detract from all that and blame Biden. But anybody goes out and blames Zelensky for causing the war in the Ukraine and calls him a dictator, like, nobody would believe it. And for the first time, I even seen that Republican from Louisiana, Kennedy, actually coming out and saying that, like, Putin is one of the worst people alive today. And I have a feeling that this whole Zelensky thing could be the rock that Trump perishes on. And I hope it is. And I hope he takes down Elon with him and the rest of the boys. But in the meantime, that doesn't sound very spiritual to me. So I have to get back. I just went off on a tangent there, so I have to get back. But remember, the Irish, we don't back Hamas. We are anti-Netanyahu, the Nazi Netanyahu, and the Israeli Defense Forces. We are anti them. But we are not pro-Hamas. We don't agree with anything they've done. And we still feel that Mossad, the most elite spy agency in the world, let them do it so they could go in and do what they're doing now, which is complete genocide. And we're sitting here having a cup of tea at 6 o'clock and watching all these hospitals get blown up, kids getting blown up, women getting blown up, and they're supposed to be looking for Hamas. And anybody knows anything, particularly here in Ireland, as we know a lot about fighting the English, that for every Palestinian that the Israeli Defense Forces killed, there's 3 young people out there at the moment who are Palestinians, are waiting to join Hamas. They could be 3 years old, 4 years old, but yet they are the recruiting agency for Hamas. But what they really want to do, in my opinion, is wipe them out and have the Riviera of the Middle East. But in the meantime, I have to get back to my mother more and more. Hey, I'm a 79-year-old mammy's boy, you know, and I'll be 80 this year, and I'll be an 80-year-old mammy's boy. But anyway, let's get back to this. So the reason I have this other thing that I have that I don't know a lot about is that my ma used to bless people and give them miraculous medals. And the first time she said Philo, I don't have to say where he's from, Tin Lizzie, whatever. She thought he was the Irish St. Martin de Porres. That's what she said. And Philo comes in the door, and the hot water, he knew where the holy water was. And he's talking to me, man, puts her hand into the holy water and splashes her all over the place like a grand gesture. But my ma thought, like, Harry Belafonte was huge at the time, Mary's boy child and this, that, and the other, you know. I went in, Mary's boy child. But they thought that fellow had all of that. And I used to say to Phil, yeah, bless you're a good looking bloke. You might know what I'm talking about. But if Harry Belafonte looked like Peter Lordy, like, I don't think the ladies would be buying the Mary's child, Mary's boy child. But anyway, so my ma had this thing that devotion to Our Lady, and everything could be sorted out with prayer. And one of my cousins, like, he joined the Salvatorians, and he went off to Africa, and it was tough, you know. As I found when I went up to Dalgan, they brought me up to talk to the priest who'd come back from the missions to Columbus, and it was very tough for the lads. They weren't actually educated properly to deal with all the problems they were going to find when they went out to the missions. And I learned a lot, like, just talking from the lads themselves. So when I'm trying to explain things to people, I say, in our DNA, you know, we go back down through the centuries, in my opinion, and that one part of our DNA is inherited memories. We inherit memories of the generations before us. And somewhere I have this thing that in my last life, I was a monk who succumbed to temptation. You know, and I still have that. Anyway, to get back to my ma, like, I keep going off on this kind of tangent all the time. But anyway, my dad, like a lot of people in the 40s and 50s, you know, he wouldn't be home that often. But I used to say to people like that, wherever my ma is, that's where heaven is. And they say to me, what about your dad? And I say, well, wherever my ma is, my dad's in the pub across the road. You know, so anyway, my dad was in the pub across the road, and then when he came out, I knew he was over there because I could hear him singing Heart of My Heart, because it was only, John Davies' pub was only across the road, and then Ma Riley's pub, the one that was next door, so I could hear him singing in both places. But unfortunately, from all the drinking and smoking, he got this cancer, and he died at 53. So my ma decided that she'd look after him rather than, you know, so that's fair enough. So every night, like, she'd sit down beside the bed in a little armchair with my dad's overcoat on and an old blanket over her legs. And he was hallucinating very badly, waiting for the morphine to arrive with the nurse. And, like, he'd be saying things to me and, you know, like, throw me out the window, when he'd be kind of hallucinating. But anyway, everything went the way it went, and wah. But then years later, you know, my ma, who was doing this and had great faith in every single thing you could think of, she gets cancer. And consequently, you think, what is it all about? So around this time then, I'm trying to figure out, like, and I came up with this little phrase where when Jesus was on the cross, and he's still human, as they say, he got completely lost, and he said, Father, why hast thou forsaken me? And I thought, he's lost on the cross. That's where I came up with this phrase from. And that's going to be one of the things that we're going to do over the next 6 weeks. Talk about Jesus being lost on the cross. And there's nobody that I don't know at some stage hasn't been exactly the same way. Completely lost, has no ideas what's happening or why it's happening the way it's happening. So I have this little saying that goes, you know, when you meet great people, it renews your faith in how great the world can be. But we don't understand the necessity for all this pain and suffering, humiliating people, stripping them of their dignity. So I don't actually, we've lost 10 lads out of the band for different reasons. And you'd have to say, if you see the old photographs, the boys looked at the top of their game, they look terrific. But at a certain stage, a lot of people, their old dignity is stripped away from them and they're humiliated. And I've no idea why that happens. So I'm going to ask in the programs, and Brian will be taking all the, Brian will be sitting here with me, and he'll be doing something that day. He's only sitting here with me today, looking good. And that's basically his job, to try and look good, look interested, and look at me with a mixture of awe, admiration.
Catch the overflow, you know.
And apathy. As a matter of fact, he's going to say something. Go ahead, Brian. I'll extend your voice there.
No, that is Lost on the Cross. He's written that tune about that, and it's a brilliant tune. I hope you actually get to play it on the program as well at some stage, because I think it's a beautiful message in a song.
Thank you.
And I hope there's a bit of more music.
Well, me and you, we'll sing it together.
Yeah.
And we'll be inviting people to let us know what they think about what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know. So the other thing, like say we're talking about Jesus on the cross, the other question I always ask people is, you know, you hear all the evangelicals and even our own Catholic priests and priests all over the world, they all say the same thing. They all say, Jesus died for our sins on the cross.
Yeah.
So I say, like, I actually don't understand that at all. Did he die for the sins before he died, or did he die for the sins after he died? And I've heard somebody say, like, if Jesus died for our sins, we better keep sinning to make it worth his while. Like, I actually don't know what they mean. When they say Jesus died for our sins, does that mean that he died so we could sin? You know, like, I want somebody to, you know, give me a better understanding of that, because I don't understand it at all. And the other thing I'll be talking about is the 7 deadly sins. Pride, envy, gluttony, sloth, anger, greed, or lust. And there's no one left in limbo. And purgatory's been put on hold. And they say the difference between heaven and hell is one is fairly hot, the other's paved with gold. And the plenary indulgences that you saved are not worth the paper they're written on. And you're heading straight for an early grave if you don't sort out right from wrong. Now they say every saint has a past. Well, clean slate is not a must. So where the last is first and the first is last, and there's hope for all of us. Now you've been knocked up, knocked down, knocked about, knocked around, but you've never been concussed. Was it pride, envy, gluttony, sloth, anger, greed, or lust? And we're going to go through the 7 of them, you know, and take it from there. But there's actually a song that goes that has a few more verses. Here's the last verse. Now you've dabbled in all 7 deadly sins, and you still can't get enough. I don't know where you've been, but look at the shape you're in. You certainly haven't got it sussed. You are having a ball, trying them all till they hit you like a kick in the guts. Was it pride, envy, gluttony, sloth, anger, greed, or lust? So we go through all 7.
One for every day of the week, Brush.
Well, yeah, well, we can kind of do it that way. And we basically kind of having it'll be semi-serious, but at the same time, I used to wonder when Jesus was out there with the apostles and they were eating fish somewhere, and somebody would start laughing, they'd say, they cut out, lads, you know, cut that stuff out. Like, did these boys ever laugh? I don't know. But the thing you have to remember about the apostles, every single one of them died a horrific death. The death of each apostle. No one would believe what they'd done to them. Terrible stuff altogether. So we'll be talking about that sort of thing. And then obviously have all these, little things like, they say the commandments, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. And I was wondering, was Jesus born at the time when Moses got the commandments? If he wasn't, who would he actually talk about if they weren't talking about him? So I'll have that discussion. So basically you want to talk about the mystics. Then you want to talk about the problem with being a mystic. Let's put it this way. The Jesuits, every morning, for an hour and a half, they do the spiritual exercises of Saint Ignatius. Every Jesuit has to do them. Now, you're doing the spiritual exercises of Saint Ignatius, and in the same building, there's a predator walking around, interfering with young boys and ruining their lives forever. And there's a right few lads that were doing the spiritual exercises of Saint Ignatius knew that Marmion was in the school and was in the building. So it's all very well. That's what I'm talking about. This stuff for monks, where they can pray all day, trying to develop a relationship between them and the divine presence. It's all very well, but it's too narrow. I think that's too narrow. It's like the Jesus prayer. Jesus have mercy on me, a sinner. When it should be, Jesus have mercy on the world. Or like open it up a bit. It's not just about you and your connection. Now, we'll be talking about meditation. All right. But what I call ordinary, everyday meditation. This is what I honestly believe. I believe that walking is the purest form of meditation. And all it needs is not so much mindfulness and well-being. That stuff sounds good, but it doesn't interest me. What you need is thoughtfulness. That's the word, thoughtfulness. Get lost in your thoughts. Now, if you're blessed enough to be able to walk and have the rhythm of life and can think nice thoughts when you're walking, and because it's the things that make you feel bad that interferes with your breathing. When your breathing is not great, it's because of what you're thinking. It interferes with your breathing. Let me give you an instance. Let's get back, have a bit of crack. We're going back to the X again. This X, evil Elon Musk X. Now in the afternoon, I always enjoy the crack. I'll have a look at Dottie and Mara and Sinead. The Today Show. I think it's a good crack. But they have this thing called spin the wheel or win the wheel. And there's an X on it. Like an Elon Musk X. It looks exactly the same. As a matter of fact, I'd call it the evil Elon Musk X. And if you win little prizes, you lose them all if it lands on the X. Now, when it lands on the X, watch Dottie. His breathing changes. I look at Maura, her beautiful smile is gone, and she's talking like a ventriloquist, like the sort of a grimace. And poor old Sinead has the card up over her face so people can't see how disappointed she is. And that X, it sucks the energy completely out of the show. Everybody is deflated. And you can hear the collective consciousness of the viewing public all over Ireland take it, sharp intake of breath. Don't land on the X. Now, if you're going to keep the X there, here's what I'm saying, and you shouldn't, you should take it out because that show is a feel-good show, feel-good factor. There should be two kinds of prizes, good ones and great ones. And it's not far off. You should be able to get the apron, you should be able to get the umbrella, the chopperboard, the mug, you know. But then you should be able to get weekend in a hotel somewhere with yourself, one of the loved ones. But what I think, if you're going to leave the X in there, and I don't think you should, but if you do, the evil X sign, you should, instead of having Brendan's head, you should have Trump's head. And if it lands on his head, you should get a 6-pack of toilet paper. That's what you should get. And Trump's head should throw it, like he used to throw when people are starving. Oh, Puerto Rico and everywhere else, he's throwing them out rolls of toilet paper. That's exactly, that sums them up. But I like that, you know, I think that program is really nice feel-good factor. Now, my mind goes back to Derek and Thelma and Marty and Mary when I was a young buck and I'd be on there with them all, and I'm still watching it. But when the X comes up, Dottie looks like a lad who's been torn down as an escort at the Roosevelt League. All the air goes out of his body. So, keep on going. We can talk about anything, but the X is that they're bringing Elon Musk onto the Today Show. And think about it.
That interferes with the breath?
It does, yeah, it interferes with your breathing.
Okay. Collective.
Yeah, collective consciousness goes, it's, you know, it dips. It's what you're thinking that makes you tight. It's what you're thinking that makes you tight, yeah.
Meditation.
Yeah, it's a form of meditation. Like happiness is a form of meditation. When you're sitting there having a good time and you're happy, beautiful, everything is going well. All of that, she's wearing this. You've seen her all before if you're as old as I am, you know. Fashion is only nostalgia. No, fashion is plagiarism, masquerading as nostalgia. So I've seen everything that's been on before, but you sit there and you have a bit of a laugh. But having said that, anybody at home is having a good time. Then it hits the X, and it's... Now, can you imagine if you're a federal worker in America at the moment, and Elon Musk is coming after you, and he's taking your job, and you voted for Trump, and all these farmers who voted for Trump, and all these unions who've been told they can't do collective bargaining no more, that voted for Trump. He lied, and done nothing but lie. And these people knew he was lying, but they decided they'd go with him because it can't be any worse than it was. It's already worse than it was, completely worse than it was. And he has Elon Musk looking into everybody's business except his own. So what Elon Musk is able to do now is you can't look into his business, but he's looking into everybody else's. You can't do Trump for fraud, but he's trying to do other people for fraud. You know, it could only happen in America. The great thing about this country here, as bad as we are, and you know, sometimes it's not great, it was never as bad as that. So what we're saying is, and we're back to the same thing again, the Irish are not pro-Hamas. The Irish are anti-Netanyahu. The Irish, the majority of the Irish, not all of them, are anti-Putin. The majority of the Irish believed that the Russians invaded the Ukraine, and tens of thousands of young Russian soldiers have died, and the same amount of Ukrainians. And Trump and Elon Musk and Putin and Netanyahu, they couldn't care less. So when you're sitting at home looking at the telly and you feel it, those boys don't feel it. They don't care. They have no moral compass. They're psychopaths. Psychopaths. They're anti-Christ. That's what they are. And people vote for them. That's the cult of personality. So we have to learn from there. So let's go back to where we started.
So do you think then if meditation was intercepted into the media, it would calm the collective consciousness then?
No. I don't think meditation is for everybody. But I think mediation is. The problem with, say, certain types of meditation is it's too intellectual. You know, like I just go for the ordinary, everyday thing that a person can understand. Go for a walk. Think nice thoughts. Breathe. It's what you're thinking that makes you tight. You know, the old bad old thoughts come into your head, like you tighten up. So we'll talk about that. So what I'm going to show is, over the next few weeks, is the exercises that I do. I am the only double hip replacement sprinter in Ireland that is over the free travel age, like elite masters, you know. Well, I'm the only one. And I'm going to show you how I do it, and I'm going to explain how I do it. And I will be talking about the electromagnetic field of the heart, mainly, and the body, and books that I read that I found a great help to acquiring X amount of knowledge about certain things. So I'll be talking about sport, the fact that I played for Bows in '64 for 2 or 3 weeks. I remember I was going great, and then the Beatles arrived. And hey, I love playing for Bows, but hold on a minute, I'm getting 15 bob off Rose Town, and you know, we're tricking around with a couple of Pat Boone numbers. So that was the end of my football career. But I never drank or smoked because of that, and to this day it's still the same. So I kind of have a certain discipline that comes from my ma and everything else. But I'll be talking about sport. I'll be shown the way I do this effortless exercises for the elderly. Now, because of my age, at one time I was what was known as, you know, friends of the elderly, but now I'm one of the elderly with friends. So I'm not from being a friend of the elderly. So anyway, I kind of have this thing that your attitude is what keeps you going. Your attitude is like let the boy or the girl inside you out every so often and just have a bit of crack. So we're going to talk about religion, sport, philosophy, theology, politics. I haven't even got around to politics in Ireland. But I think compared to America, man, we are beautiful people. See you next week.